about making improvements to the park. The playground needs to be replaced, and other concerns have come up in our discussions as well. So we've hired the consultants at Beta Group to do a final design of the playground and to also do a master improvements plan with cost estimates. To be clear, there is no money currently in place to make any improvements. We have made a capital budget request for fiscal year 2022-23 for a new playground. But the request will have to go through the city budget review process, and it may or may not be approved. But if we have a plan, then we have a basis for fundraising, for getting grants, for requesting city money, and even getting contributions. So this will be the first of 3 public meetings. The goal of tonight's meeting is to gather input, to hear what you do and don't like about the park. I would like to introduce the Beta consultants. Randy Collins, he is the vice president of Beta Group, and Nate Socha, sorry, he is the project manager. So at the end of the meeting, we'll talk about what to expect at public meeting number 2, but the date to be determined. But I'm going to hand it over to Nate and to Randy.
Thank you, Erin. So Erin kind of touched on this slide, talking about the project team and overview. We're going to give a brief presentation, and we're basically the presentation is broken into 2 parts. We're going to first talk about the overall park, and we'll stop and take questions and comments. And then we're going to go into the playground and then stop and take questions and comments then. Now, that isn't to say that you can't have playground questions or comments during the overall park, but I would suggest we focus them on maybe the big picture of the playground, and then get to the playground part and get into some of the details on the playground itself. So next slide. We were going to keep the chat button off, but we're going to leave it on. But when it comes to questions, it would be great if people could still raise their hand. That way we can take them in order and not have a lot of people talking over themselves, over each other. So we still would like you to raise your hand when it's going to be time for a question. Nate's going to try best to monitor who's the first, the second, and the third on that. So if we go slightly out of order, just please have a little patience, and that would be greatly appreciated. Next slide. So I'm going to turn this over to Nate, and Nate's going to have to also advance his own slides.
Thanks, Randy. Thank you, Erin. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us join this project. Randy and I are really excited to work on Barrett Park and to come up with a great master plan and the playground design for the project. Real quick on approach, how we view approach for park design. We see it as a combination of 3 efforts. Working with the city of Stamford's goals, which we hope to touch upon after this, going through safety and regulatory guidelines, ADA access, building code guidelines, incorporating anything that we propose to be within the newest standards of regulations. And then the third part, I think one of the most important parts is community input. And that's why we're here today, is we really just want to listen to what everyone has to say to make sure that the design that comes out of this is really based on your input. So real quick on the city of Stamford's goals, we're breaking this into, as Randy mentioned, breaking this into 2 parts. The first being the overall park master improvement plan. And I say that in that we think the city and us both believe that the park has great bones, and we want to keep the general design, of course, but what can we improve upon? Some things that were initially discussed were traffic improvements on to Burdick Street. We know right now that there's some rutting of the sidewalk. There is no sidewalk. There's some rutting of the road to get access to the park, as well as parking appears to be an issue. Upgrades to the existing pavilion, the park building, and the softball facilities. Improving site circulation and traffic or access. Look at the different points of access for the park and how to improve upon those, whether it be enlarging some of the points, making sure they're ADA accessible. Upgrading the stone walls. We know that the stone walls are a major feature to the park, as well as in some locations they aren't designed to the same standard as other areas. And then I'm considering new park features. I'm listening to everyone and what they want to have as part of their park. And then the playground, we'll touch upon that after the first part. But just making sure that it's accessible for all ages and uses, that the surfacing is appropriate, that there's adequate drainage, and that if appropriate, we would include site fencing. So real quick on the overall park. Some of the features we want to highlight are the major components so everyone's aware of them. With there being a play area in the southern end of the park, the lower part, the baseball field, and then the three structures or facilities over here, the open air pavilion, the park building with the restrooms and storage, and then the basketball court. And lastly, the parking area that some are not aware of, we've been told, in the rear of Burdick Street. And then the access points to the park as they currently are, from the southern end of Upland Street, a set of staircase, a crosswalk with a rapid flashing beacon over on Newfield Avenue, the main entrance from the parking lot on Burdick Street, and then also at the corner of Burdick and Upland or Belltown, behind the ball field. Real quick on the baseball field, we are aware that the field is used primarily for Babe Ruth League baseball, as well as the junior varsity high school team comes out and uses the field. Additionally, that the outfield is used for multi-use, whether it be a pickup game of football or soccer, and that the facilities for the baseball field include bleachers along the back, a press box behind the home plate, and then some dugouts. And also the stone wall along this area, we know over time has kind of degraded and come apart, and there's been some attempts at, efforts to repair. But there's also some older features that have been kind of held over from another time when access was permitted this way that we would work to improve. Also touching upon the basketball court, the park building, the pavilion. Several people have reached out about the stone wall not being the same quality as the other locations. The basketball court over time having some minor cracks in it, as well as the hoop being bent in one location. And that the pavilion, which is an open air structure, we've heard that it's used very frequently for both the camp as well as birthday parties and other events and large gatherings. And then the park building, the scoreboard and restroom facilities that we're aware are open from May to October and used to house the summer camp program and the upper level that has since stopped being of use because of ADA issues. And last, the parking area, which is on the other side of Burdick Street. We know that it's underutilized, and we've been told that some of the signage for the park is not, for the parking area isn't quite clear. And it's, how to best adjust that to be in best use. So a survey was put out by the town, and what we've heard so far from people about what they like best about Barrett Park. We know that everyone really appreciates that it's an open green space. Basically everything on the park is really appreciated. The pavilion, the baseball field, the basketball court, the lawn, the rocks, the grass, and the natural feeling of the park, the walking path, the multi-use area, the benches, the swings, the playground, and overall the community feel that everyone has for the park, with it being situated between 3 or 4 different neighborhoods, and how they all utilize the park for the community. We heard a lot about what people would be interested in improving for Barrett Park. As Erin mentioned, that the playground is already having money being put in for funding, and we hope to advance that playground design simultaneously as the master plan to come up with a real solid concept and project for that as we progress. And then incorporating new ideas. So far, we've heard about pickleball courts, splash pad, exercise stations, community garden, dog run, bocce courts, and a gazebo. Some circulation improvements for the park, a lot of people are interested in that, either a circuit or a track around the park, if we could provide additional pathways, improving accessibility within the park as well as outside the park, sidewalks and crosswalks, and then also trying to make the access point from Upland Ave more accessible with possibly a ramp. Additionally, improving amenities within the park, including benches, seating and picnic areas, new types of seating areas, such as tables with games on them or ping pong tables, hammocks, cool seating areas, better grills, bike racks, additional trash cans. There's some landscape improvements as well. So far, we've heard about trees and shade being very important to the park, as well as improving the overall quality of the lawn. And then some, I guess, some infrastructure improvements as well, including basketball hoops, bathrooms, lighting, improving the scoreboard, and then repairing the stone walls. And lastly, before we pause here, just some comments we've heard on what people would prefer there was less of or did not prefer to have within Barrett Park. And a lot of it revolved around the drainage, the open space. Thank you. Sorry, our cleaners informing me that I'm the last one in their building and they're going to be not to lock up. And that litter and noise were also a concern, as well as some people felt that a dog park was not appropriate in the park, as well as a splash pad, and that people felt that parking on Burdick Street really needed to be improved, as well as potentially adding additional fenced-in areas. And so that's where we are in the overall park right now. And I'm going to turn back over to Randy to take questions and comments from the public. I see Solomon has their hand raised.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
Hi, yes, thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it. I'm sure, I know a lot of local community members will agree. I just wanted to make one comment. I noticed there was a suggestion for pickleball courts in the park. I just want to put my input on that. I've read several articles about pickleball being a nightmare in local communities in New Jersey because of noise level. It's a very noisy game, apparently. They've even I can even send you the article for communities in New Jersey that are struggling with it. So I would really seriously oppose any pickleball courts. I think it was a Times article. I'm happy to share it if anyone wants to take a look. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Becky, you're up.
Go ahead, Zoe, stand up.
I think we should be able to have a dog park and or a splash pad, because it's fun for the kids and it's fun for doggos.
Thanks, guys. Great job, by the way.
Thank you.
I do have one other comment.
Sure.
I noticed that the park didn't have a single sign that published that this meeting was happening, and I'm concerned that we're not including the day-to-day users of the park in this conversation in a meaningful way. And I would strongly encourage going forward that we publish these meetings in the park in a written way well in advance so people can attend. That'd be great. And there's one more comment, please.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I would love it. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to say it, but I would really like it if we could put in lights on the basketball court so that people could use it at night. That's all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Reagan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Regan Allen. I live on Belmere Avenue. I know you said earlier on that you would talk about parking and traffic on Burdick, but will that also include the intersection by Burdick, Upland, Belltown, and Belmere? Because that's a real dangerous intersection there. Or is this just going to be stuff with park?
No, we're going to look at the areas outside the park in a sort of limited fashion. Just quickly, what are at the Belltown and Burdick intersection? tell me what you have concerns with.
So I've been here since it used to go the other way, one way. It's very hard to see if you're coming out of Burdick because sometimes the auto body shop has cars. So the line of sight turning right or left is really hard because you can't see because there's traffic on both sides.
Okay, yep. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark,
Okay, can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay, thanks. I live on Alton. I'll echo what Regan just said about that intersection. It's mainly, to me, it's sight distances, and also because even though the posted speed limit on Upland is 25, very few people actually observe that speed limit. They go much faster than 25, so it's tough to navigate that sometimes. In addition, I guess related to that, in addition to what you have on the screen in terms of your access points, there's another access point, although there's no stairs, there's another access point kind of midway between Alton and Norman.
Yeah, right about where the U and Upland Avenue is, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
There's
mean,
actually a few other sort of informal access points. We just were highlighting the more formalized one.
okay. I'm sure as
So-
you guys are doing your stuff, I mean, that one I use all the time because I'm an Alton, but that one's sometimes challenging because for a similar reason, there's a bend in the road, the cars are going pretty fast. The sight distances are difficult because there's some large trees that are lining that road right there, and even some people use the Upland or that little bend or that access point as parking to go to the baseball games, which I think is dangerous because people come down the road can't actually see the cars parked there until right before. I'd also just mention that I appreciate where the basketball court is relative to the play area, both for shade purposes, but also because there's a lot of adult conversations happening on the basketball court based on who's using it, versus, and there's quite a good distance between where the basketball court's located and where the play area is located. So I don't know if you guys are looking at it as a blank slate or not, but that would be something to consider if you're discussing maybe moving where things are located at the current time.
Great, thank you.
Elena,
Is my hand raised? Mary Emmon?
yes.
Your hand is raised, but did you catch Elena, Nate?
I did. I don't know if she's still unmuting herself.
Oh, okay.
Hi, sorry.
Go right ahead.
I also live on Alton. I am agreeing with the past two people who spoke with regards to, I guess the safety, I would say, of like the Alton, Belmere area with the cars and the traffic and the speeding. I have a son who goes on the bus on the corner of Belmere and as it's turning to Upland, from Upland to Belltown. And there are cars that are speeding all the time. There are cars that sometimes don't even like slow down when the bus has its lights on. And I think part of that is the auto body shop. I do agree. There are cars parked all over the place in that area. And it makes me very nervous. So I don't know if it's because there are the people, I do notice that there are a lot of cars parking from the park side. So I don't know if there's a way to speak to the auto body person about that. But parking in general in that area is not very great, especially when we have friends that are meeting us at the park, there's really nowhere to park. Like the previous person said about like with the baseball games and everything, it just, there's a lot of, I would say, traffic and nowhere to go. And then my other comment was just, I do want the dog park. I have a dog. There's a lot of dog owners in this area walking up and down the street all the time. And I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. I also came a little bit late because I thought this started at 7:30 and not 7, but just one more comment. From this side, I don't know if you already spoke about this, so I do apologize, but with regards to like handicap accessibility, wheelchair, a ramp or something to get from this side down to the playground area or just in general to the park, because right now I use that little, I don't even know what to call it. There's an opening in the stone wall across the baseball field is how I usually go. So, and there's also like a trench, I would call it. Like it's not even completely flat. There is like a huge bump that you have to go over
Yeah,
to
it's a
get
drainage-
onto the
it's a
baseball
drainage
field.
area, Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if, again, I'm sorry if you already spoke about that. But if there is something to do about that, I would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Barry?
Hi, it's Mary Gammon. I live on Upland and Alton Road, and I just want to echo, or not echo, but I just want to make my voice heard that I live very close to the park. So I know what goes on in that park. What goes on in the park. I am a very big proponent of basketball court because I think the young people of Stamford need a place to gather. However, I don't think lighting is a good idea because I think that just invites just some other issues that would kind of happen. I also want to say that I am very much against a dog park. I'm an owner of a dog, but I think a dog park, the park is small. Additional, whatever you installing fences, you're going to get the litter that collects below the fences. And I just don't think the maintenance aspect, as well as the noise aspect, as well as making the park a destination park, which I don't think it's big enough to that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Alex?
All right. Hi. Let me just move away from my daughter who's on the computer. So I live on Belmere Avenue, and I want to echo a couple of things that I did here as well. There is a lot of traffic, like everybody said, coming up Burdick and trying to turn either way, especially on baseball game days. It is lined all the way to the do not park sign, and people come flying around that turn multiple times. I've been there with my family, and it's like a game of chicken where someone's coming at you and you have to jump out of the way. So my suggestion is to take the do not park sign and move it way back from the street so that people can't park so close. And I'm sure also, like everybody said with the auto body there, I'm sure he's trying to maximize his space of having that asphalt there so that he can park as many vehicles as he can. But it is an impingement on where people can see when you're coming out. You're kind of just hoping that no one's coming as you're turning left out of Burdick and hopping right down to Belmere for me. So that is really dangerous. The other thing that I wanted to say, I do think that it would be nice to have a dog park there. I understand that there are concerns about noise. Having the area to the left of the play area where there's a lot of rocks and a lot of trees, it's a very unused part of the park at this moment. It's a little difficult to play there because of the terrain. It's not safe for kids to run around on. However, I think it would be a great place for the dogs to run around. Having it close to the road, you're already getting the noise from the street there as it is. So having that along with the dogs, I'm not so concerned necessarily having people bring their dogs there because people bring their dogs there anyways as it is. So having the neighborhood utilize it in a different way, I think that is the benefit to being in the neighborhood. There is that parking area on Burdick. I think the signage there is very confusing and I don't think it's utilized well. There should be more parking there where people can use that for the baseball games, as well as if they're going to be using it for the dog park. If there is a dog park there, there could be better signage so that it's not a concern of having people park on Upland or the side streets there. And again, I think everybody is in agreement that the playground is not safe or as fun as it could be. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Stephanie? Stephanie, you're up.
Thank you. Hello?
Hello?
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, this is Tony O'Shea. Couple of quick things. The upland bend there definitely should be a quick thing to take care of. They're way too big over there. I know you took down a lot of trees in the off season, and I'm surprised that that one wasn't taken care of because it's just a complete blind spot there. Additionally, as far as the use of the pavilion, I'd actually like to learn about what the rules are with regard to the use of that. It doesn't seem like, is there some sort of a fee that people have to pay independent of, so for example, is there some sort of deposit that you have to put down on that that you would have to claim back as long as you kept the place in reasonable condition? My impression is you just pay a fee and that's the end of it. But you get these people, they have their events and they leave, and they often leave the place like a dump. There should be some sort of consequences for that, and it doesn't seem there is. Finally, on the dog park, sounds like a great idea on the surface. If you think about it, I mean, the negatives way outweigh positives. I've been to other dog parks. I've seen fist fights break out at dog parks. Particularly, there's not a big space. You wouldn't be able to split it up for small dogs versus big dogs. You're just going to have a whole bunch of people. It's just not a big enough park to facilitate that. But it's just too sensitive an issue. I think we have enough headaches, and plus all the things that Mary said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Liz Middleton. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm a regular user of the park, and we walk to the park from a few blocks away. And so my concerns are mostly concerning pedestrian access. The fact that there's no sidewalk along the park on Upland and not on both sides of Burdick, that seems very strange to me. Also, crosswalks at the cross streets on Upland, besides the corners of the park, would be really useful. And the crosswalk on Strawberry Hill, I am terrified to cross that, or Newfeld, I'm sorry. Even when you press the lights, no one slows down. I think it would be really helpful to put in a light like the one across from the high school, where it actually turns red and cars, at least theoretically, have to stop rather than just notice you. That would at least be a step in the right direction. But I think if possible, traffic calming along Upland and Newfeld would be helpful. And I would be in support of a dog park. Thank you.
Thank you. Ayla, you're up.
Hi, Ayala.
Ayala, thank you.
So I was actually going to echo all those things about the sidewalk. There's no sidewalk on Upland at all on the park side, as well as really much wheelchair accessibility or stroller accessibility. The road on Burdick is very poorly maintained. So if you're pushing anything on it, there are lots of rocks and loose stones. And since cars are always parked on either side of the the road, it's very narrow. So you have to kind of push a stroller in the middle of the road. So it seems very unsafe. And lighting, there's very little lighting. So if you're out at a certain time, it starts to get too dark once again, if you're pushing a stroller or something. And since cars drive very fast on Upland, I actually live on Belltown. Maybe possibly something like speed bumps or something, or even a stop sign. I know I live close to the stop sign over on Tom's, and people use it as like a racetrack to see how fast they can get to Tom's Road. So some kind of way to get people to slow down on the road.
Okay, thank you. So to keep things moving, I think what we'll do is, Vern, we'll make you the last comment at this section, but we still have a few ahead of you. So Susan, you're up. Yeah, you gotta.
Susan or me? Okay.
Susan's up.
Thank you. Sorry.
No problem.
I actually live on Francis, which is directly on the other side of the parking lot. Okay. And I do have some concerns because on the Francis side, we have a lot of lighting from the senior housing, and that lighting is on 24 hours a day. And because a lot of the big trees in the rear of that parking lot were cut down, we get a lot of the light shining like on the back sides of our houses on Francis. So we have to keep in mind that this park is a beautiful park, but it's also a neighborhood park, and it is surrounded by homes. And it's not like a Scalzi Park where you can have those stadium lights that are blaring at all hours of the night. Actually, the signage for the parking area says that it closes 1 hour after sunset or after dusk. And what's happening in that parking lot is people are actually bringing lawn chairs after hours in the dark, and they drink back there. And in the summertime, the drinking goes on until 11:30, 12 o'clock. And my neighbor has 2 small boys, and the kids can't sleep, and there's no enforcement. So we really have to be careful of, like, what was the initial ask? Was the initial ask for a better play area, for ADA access, for maybe a splash pad, for places for people to sit for better access? Was the initial ask that like the Burdick Street is, I know the traffic is crazy there because they park on both sides of the street. So maybe it could be one side of the street only parking. But like everybody else said, at the end, you have a nightmare when you try to get out of there. The cars are coming so fast down Belltown. So maybe we put a 3-way stop there so that everyone at least has to slow down to a certain degree. But I mean, to have lights there past dark, like I said, we already have a tremendous amount of light coming from that senior housing complex right there from the old school. And so, we have to make sure that we don't lose the fact that this is a small neighborhood park.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Becky.
Hey, sorry, I just wanted to add, and I put it in the chat in case anybody would like to review it. I think, I want to speak for the dog park and say that I think subscription paid model would really help us to maintain it very well, keep it clean. You can even hire someone to pick up the poop if you want. And the fact is, the reality is that dogs are in a park and there's nothing we're going to be able to do to stop them. And sometimes they're off a leash. And I get the need for people to be able to exercise their dogs. And the fact is that it's unsafe. The play area and the field are far too adjacent for us to be lackadaisical about allowing dogs off leashes in the park. So either we have to become a lot more stringent to stop that from happening, or we should consider facilitating that space that Alex brought up very correctly is not really being used on the corner just next to the play area and along Newfield. And it seems like an obvious fit to put something. And thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Cheryl, you're up.
Hi guys, my name is Cheryl Lukalich. I just have two quick things. I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, but I want to make a suggestion for a water fountain, and maybe two, like one that's closer to the playground. And I think there used to be one near the basketball court, but just like an old spigot kind of thing, but something that people can actually use, and maybe have one that's like at the cove where dogs can also use it.
Right, just to be clear, Cheryl, you're talking about like a water fountain for people to get a drink of water in.
Yeah. Just, you know, like what used to be in playgrounds back in the day, only now they have it so your dog can also drink from it, which I think would be helpful since it is a dog-friendly park. The other thing I wanted to mention, the lady prior to me spoke about the parking lot. I agree that it's underutilized. However, no one's really going to want to use it unless you rework that parking lot. It's unfriendly. There is a big mound of dirt there most of the time that the city uses just sort of like as a dump. The garbage just fills. I used to walk in there as a loop, you know, to go in the park and use that as an extra loop. But finding glass, garbage, condoms, honestly, like I stopped going there. So that needs to get a personality change of some sort so that people actually want to put their cars in there. And maybe it's not the lighting, but maybe just the streetscape it. I don't know what the word is, but make it someplace somebody wants to go. And then what everybody else said about the traffic and the parking, yeah, I echo all of that, but
Okay,
that's all I have to say.
thank you. Okay, Fran, you're up.
Fern.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I said it right the first time.
Hi, I assume I'm on, you can see me and what have you. Okay, I wanted to kind of just represent a contingent who is not represented here, and that is the group of summer camp kids who use it 5 days a week, and the summers are getting hotter and hotter, and those kids have very little area because, let's face it, the ball field is wide open. So to keep them locked in the pavilion area only because of building a dog park seems really to overlook a big segment of our city youth who use it, ages 6 to 12 from June to August. And that little play area is actually an area for children to enjoy. There are some rocks and shade trees, and I do not think that a dog park, and I have dogs, so it's like other people have said, I don't think this is, I mean, you could go to Waveney, there's a much larger dog park up, and we've done that too. So anyway, I just feel that those kids, I mean, I don't know anything about splash pads that that first person said, that girl, but truly for the summer camp kids, I would love for them to have some water. This is one of the camps that they don't have a swimming pool or anything, and they're here, and it's just summers are getting hotter. So let's keep them in mind. Otherwise, good luck with all of this.
Okay, thank you, Fran.
Thank you.
All right, so I think that was a good comment. A lot of it pertained to the surrounding roads, which is all good information. What I'd like to do is move on to specifically look at the play area. Nate's going to give, again, a little bit of a presentation on that, and then we'll have an opportunity to have another session of comments. So if Nate, if you want to jump back in.
Thanks, Randy. So as Randy discussed, we talked about the play area. The city has put in money, a request for funding for the play area. The play area is currently designed. Includes a 5 to 12-year-old play structure within wood chips with a plastic curb around it in this location here. Then 2 areas of swings, one for baby swings, including the bucket seats, and then your traditional swings in the middle. And then one small spring rider, I think it's a rocket ship below that with a couple of benches in the area. And the city is looking to expand the usage of the play area with ages and abilities going from 2 to 5 and 5 to 12-year-old play areas. We would look at a combination of having these 2 things adjacent to each other as well as spread out a little bit. We'd be looking at doing appropriate surfacing. And then we've been aware that drainage has been a problem in the past, so we would like to address the drainage and grading to the best degree possible. And then site fencing around the play area if it's deemed appropriate and if the community believes it's the right path to go forward with. Our approach to a playground design will be to have it be an inclusive playground that offers a range of activities for different ages as well as abilities. Typical structures that we'd start to look at would be smaller playground and pieces of equipment for ages 2 to 5, as well as larger pieces of playground equipment from 5 to 12 with higher areas and climbing structures. Some freestanding elements, including seesaws, devices that spin, upgrades and spring riders for younger children, and then sensory play areas that involve panels that have activities on them, or potentially things that you can have musical aspects of, as well as swings for the area. We try to make the swings inclusive, including swing seats, the bucket seats, and possibly tire swings as potential areas. And that's where we are right now. What we want to hear from you is what types of features would you like to see in the play area? And then are there any unique historical characteristics or a color scheme or a theme that you'd like to see incorporated in a concept or option that we would go forward to design? What we've heard so far from people is that they're interested in climbing equipment, play structures, an obstacle course, zip lines, or a ninja challenge, various types of swings, areas for different ages. The playground equipment could be complex and interesting, ADA accessible, a shade feature above the playground, which could potentially be a tree or some type of canopy, more benches surrounding the play area, the splash pad to make sure that the play area is ADA accessible, and to have a nature themed setting. So we're going to turn it back over to question and answer and hopefully get some comments on some of the ideas on theme, as well as what people would like to see in a playground.
Okay, thank you, Nate. So similar format, if we can hone in on the playground area, we'd love to get your comments on that. Raise your hand and then we will take them as we see them come in. So Alex.
So I agree with a lot of the things that you guys are saying. I work at Stark School and I see firsthand, and obviously like the neighborhood here too, how dangerous the wood chips are for the playground flooring. Lots of kids pick them up, they throw them at each other, they fall on them, they get splinters. They're very easy to trip and fall on. So I would like to see flooring that is something similar to what they have at the Strawberry Hill School. That is awesome flooring for the kids to run around on. If they fall, they're not getting as easily hurt. They're not tripping as easily. The barriers surrounding all of these areas, I think to have an easier accessibility to for even wheelchairs and strollers to get across a smooth surface that is the same height as the surrounding area, the grass, would be the best choice, I think, for this park, because there are so many people that come here with their strollers. And again, like everybody has said, to have a wheelchair or stroller access from Upland to come down to this play structure area. I love the idea of having something that is for different ages, like the 2 to 5 and then 5 on. I think it would be nice to have also something for the senior citizens that have the housing on Burdick. So if there could be some sort of workout area for people like that. I know there's yoga in the park. I see a lot of people that do early morning group sessions there for different types of exercising. So if there could be something there for people to use. I know they have similar things around Scalzi Park. Not that I think that this should be as big as Scalzi because it's a small neighborhood playground, but definitely something for different ages and to have better flooring and to not have any kind of barrier so that it's easier to get in and out for wheelchairs as well as strollers.
Great, thank you. Jesse.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Okay, great. I have quite a few comments. I'll try and make these really quick. Thanks so much for meeting and opening up this question. First, I love the idea of some sort of a water source for a lot of the reasons that were mentioned before, especially because of the camps. I would actually argue that it should double as a fountain, not be an eyesore, be something small, beautiful, but practical as well. Some sort of a nature-based play area would be great. Having a theme going through the entire place, connecting it to the whole park. You know, it's a beautiful park and we really want it to not just be this like bright eyesore, I would say. Have all of the parts of it be open-ended play, age appropriate. I actually, no offense, Nate, I really appreciate everything that you presented about the playground, but I really did not like a single one of the pictures that you posted. I don't think that they represent what we discussed earlier in our meeting that we talked about. I think that there's a lot more creative versus generic playground equipment. I'd love for it to be much more open-ended, like I mentioned. Some of the parks in the area that have been cited have more open-ended play structures. I think it's really important to not have so many just like rigid one-use elements in the park. I really want the park to be special and reflect our community and not have it be just another generic playground. Lastly, I don't want to cause an argument here, but I would really like you guys to look into the health risks associated with the poured in place rubber surfacing. There are lawsuits going on throughout the country right now in many major cities, including Washington, D.C. and others. Yale and Mount Sinai have 2 huge research studies that have been going on for years that have already been proving that this is really, really dangerous in a lot of ways. Though I fully agree that the wood chips that are in the park are not good at all for all the reasons that have already been mentioned and more. There is a type of wood chip called engineered wood fiber. It is great. I'm actually sending a link in the chat if anyone's interested in looking further into this. Some of the most beautiful playgrounds that I've seen use this. It's extremely safe. It's considered safer than the rubber poured in place if you do research and consult with these research firms that have been studying it for years. They're 90% cheaper in the long run. They're longer lasting. And again, they're safer. And most importantly, they're also ADA compliant, which is what our ultimate goal is here. So I'd really appreciate if we could look into that option. They're not typical wood chips, and maybe look into some parks that use those as well and see what people think about that. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, is this Zoe that's up?
Yes, me. I think that we should have a more advanced playground. It's very fun, but I think we should have more advanced stuff like a zip line, as I said in the chat, or maybe some more climbing structures. And like we saw on the other pictures of other playgrounds, they have a lot more advanced stuff. And I think we should get that for our park. What's this?
Yeah, I think splash pads makes a lot of sense. Everybody mentioned it, so I'll tag on. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Zoe. Alana, I mean.
Hi, thank you. I think actually everyone kind of said what I was thinking, and I'm just going to reiterate again about the wood chips. I have a 4-year-old who has definitely picked up the wood chips and thrown them like that first person said. So I am just a little bit concerned going forward if we're, making a beautiful new playground, that it's just whatever they decide to use is appropriate and I would say safe, especially if kids are going to pick it up and throw it. That was just my biggest concern. I like everything that was presented. I do agree with Jesse. At the same time, though, to have some more open-ended structures, so it's not just playing for one purpose, one thing. And I love the idea of ADA and everyone is included. And yeah, just thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Ayala? No, I didn't get that right. Pronounce it for me again, please.
It's Ayala.
Ayala. Okay.
Ayala. Yes. Hi. So I agree with Jesse in that, I'd like the colors to be a little more neutral and also kind of more of a thematic. I think one of the nice things about this park is it's very natural feeling, since there's a lot of green space and trees, and I would lean to having more of a nature inspired space, whether or not it's something like a tree house and flowers, and really blending more into the natural environment. I think having music elements that children can then play, create different sounds, and I think also having a water element, whether or not that's definitely water fountains to drink from, but also a water element to both play in and also appreciate. There's one bench in that area, and so something that you can sit, whether or not it's also, sorry, my Google Home just is reminding me something. I also think that there's no shaded area, which is a problem in the summer months. So some kind of sailcloth or gazebo, someplace where is near enough to the play area and you could sit down. I often bring my daughter out there and we eat a snack outside, and there's really no place to eat in a covered environment, as well as no garbage cans, recycling bins, anything along those lines in the playground space. And I guess that's about it.
Thank you, Ayala. Mary Ammon?
I just wanted to make a comment. I know that I don't want to speak too much with regard to the playgrounds because my kids are older. However, I do want to just comment that one of the things about the park that are really nice is the fact that it's got a natural element to it. So I really kind of would like to see that we don't put down plastic or the rubber down. And I mean, for drainage purposes, just for aesthetic, not aesthetic purposes, but just because that's what it's a nature-based park. And I would like it to stay that way. I don't want to see a fabricated ground covering in the park. That's just my comment.
Okay, thank you. Greg.
Thank you very much. I appreciate having this meeting. Most people have echoed my comments, but I just have two very short ones. One is talking about the seating a little bit. As Ayala mentioned, there's only one bench. If we could have more seating for adults, it's not uncommon, especially on the weekend, for a lot of families to congregate together and the children are playing around and the adults have nowhere to sit, and certainly nowhere to sit that's close to the playground. And then the other one is just when this is being designed and where it's going to be located, just having an eye towards where the shaded areas are in the park. The school on 5th Street is a really nice playground, but that is just brutal in the summer. I mean, there is no shade, there is no protection at all. And so what I'd hate to have happen is this great place being built, but you're basically just being baked in the sun every time you're there. So those are my only two short comments. But again, thank you very much for holding this meeting.
Thank you. Sandy.
Hi, thank you so much for having the meeting. I just wanted to echo some comments in terms of the safety, in terms of the material that's used for the grounding with the no chips. And I like Jesse's idea of the engineered wood fiber or something along those lines. Love the idea of the fountain that was mentioned earlier, and echo what Greg just said as well. And then just wanted to add the no fencing idea. I think it's a great, awesome park, and I love that it's open space. So just would prefer no fencing around the playground, and as well as that corner area that's been mentioned for the dog park. I think it's used by a lot of people that do and don't have dogs. So I'm not in favor of any fencing added to the park. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Park overall or playground? Jesse. Am I saying that right? Is it Jesse?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm just thinking now for the first time, I know a lot of people, especially in our survey, said they really did want fencing, especially for a toddler playground. I absolutely see both sides of it. And I would love if your team could think creatively about how to kind of satisfy both sides. You know, I've seen toddler playgrounds where sometimes, I don't know if this would work here, it could be like dip down, like just ways to create a safe space where a 2-year-old isn't running away and parents can actually enjoy their time in the park, which is really important to parents of young children, without having like an ugly eyesore of a fence there. I think if we could accomplish both of those, that would make absolutely everyone happy.
Okay, great. Cheryl.
Yeah, I don't know if you addressed this yet or not, but is there a plan for plantings along the perimeter of it, with like getting rid of the invasive weeds that are there? You know, just making it nicer with just the plantings.
Yeah, that's
I don't
all
know.
part of, that's all part of what we'll be looking at as part of the master plan.
Okay.
All right. Well,
one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's two more. Stephanie, sorry about that. Or actually, is this Tony?
No, it's Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
Tony's sitting right here. I just wanted to say we live on Norman, and we've lived here this month. Was 21 years, and that park has come a long way. I mean, I know everyone wants ramps and stuff like that, but when our son, who's 18, when he was little, there was no walkway. We had to just push him through the grass in his stroller. So, we have had some improvements over the years with that great walkway, and actually the playground when we moved in, that wasn't that playground. That's actually, playground's probably, I mean, it's still old. Yeah, 18 years old or whatever, doesn't matter. So, I mean, the city's been very great to, keep trying to improve it. And, some of this has probably been delayed, but, it's always a money issue. And I want to thank you all for, inviting us to give our thoughts. So thank you. But it is slowly getting better, and it's a very great park for the neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you. Matthew.
Hi, my name is Judith. I'm Matthew's wife. I came in late, so this might have been addressed already a little bit, but one of the really big issues for us is drainage in the park. And it just seems like I do recognize that it's improved over the last year or so, but it still feels like it rains and it's wet for a long time. So just if that could be addressed and figured out, that would be a huge help as well.
Okay. Thank you, Judith.
Yep.
So I don't call you Becky or Zoe. What should I call you?
My name is Omer. I really love being able to talk to everybody about the park like this collectively. I really appreciate everything that we're doing here. I wanted to throw one more idea out there, which is normally when people use the pathway or they walk their dogs, they go around the whole park. So a running track or a paved path all the way around the park would allow people to make circuits. I know I personally would love to be able to run in a nice flat, right, paved space that's local. I wanted to ask a question about the funding as well. Has it been decided if this is going to be fully publicly funded or whether it's going to be a private-public partnership?
I don't think there's been a decision on that. I think that's still open-ended at this point.
Cool, thank you. One last question, how do we decide on priorities? So what's the process for deciding on like what gets prioritized?
You give me a great segue into the next section. And I know that what we want to do is talk about next steps. We're basically going to take all the input that we've had today. We're going to make a plan that sort of summarizes that. And then from that, we're going to be putting together a number of what we'll call master plan concepts. And we'll do something similar to what we've done tonight. And we're going to break that up into the bigger picture of the park. And then we'll do a section that hones in on the playground. What we'll probably do is talk about maybe 3 different segments of the park itself. And I've been thinking about it this way. So you've got the area, the wall and outside the wall. So that would take into account the parking lot, pedestrian access, some of the traffic and safety issues that were discussed. Then probably a section that talks about the park in general. And that will be sort of that wide range of things that have been brought up: dog park, paths, ball field, pavilion, playground in general, those types of things. And then a third might be the playground itself. And then from that, we'll have, like I said, a number of concepts to review, but we'll have a bunch of bulleted items that are associated with each concept. And then maybe what we can do in the next meeting is hone in on what people like about the concepts or not. And then we can talk about the priorities in those 3 groups. So that's sort of a working thought process right now. It hasn't been formalized, but based on working on other projects and looking at this project specifically, how best to be able to break things up so that we can have multiple priorities in those 3 different areas is something that I'm thinking might not be a bad idea. So that's sort of how we've been thinking about it, or I've been thinking about it and discussing it with Nate and Erin over the course of today. Nate, what's the next slide? Oh yeah, well, there you go.
Do you want to say anything about, do you still want people to?
Oh, the survey?
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to leave the survey up maybe for today is Thursday until the end of next week. So if you know somebody who hasn't had an opportunity to take the survey and provide their feedback, we would love to hear from them. Obviously, the more voices that we get from the neighborhood and from the city is great. So we don't want to shut that down. We're going to leave that up until the end of next week. And then probably what we would need, and I'm thinking about this in the bigger picture of the calendar, and we're coming up on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Hanukkah. It would be great to have something in the beginning of December, but I also feel like we have a lot that we want to tackle, and we want to be able to address as many of the points that came up tonight as possible. So I would tentatively say we might be looking at the beginning of January for the next public meeting. Does that sound all right, Erin, to you, from the city standpoint?
Yeah, that sounds
okay. Fine. So you can see we're just discussing this right now, but there's been a lot of input, and we want to make sure we're thoughtful about it all. We want to make sure that we can give you back some information that addresses all of your input. So I'm thinking it might likely be the beginning of January sometime. Jesse.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you saw the chat. There were a couple of questions. One was if we could post the survey link somewhere in the park, which would be great. I'm not exactly sure how to do that. Erin, maybe we can figure that out offline, but that is a great idea. Matt also wanted to know when we would ideally like to start construction. And then, yeah, Randy, you can just read from here. I just want to make sure
Yeah, you know,
got
as far as construction goes, I think we're in the very early stages. It's without really having funding in hand, it would be hard to answer a construction question at this point. And I think that, you know, as we move through the process, things like that would probably start to become clearer. So that's just a long-winded way of saying, I don't really know right at this point.
I mean, we wouldn't know if our capital budget request for a playground was approved until about May.
Okay.
So,
Jesse, are there any other questions that I might have missed?
A lot of people are saying that we should be posting the survey, or posting not just the survey, but also announcements of the next meetings or anything that's important more publicly and more widespread. You know, the people who have been working on this for a while, we tried to post in a lot of Facebook groups and local WhatsApp groups, but of course we didn't come anywhere near close to catching everyone we should have caught. It's super helpful to hear this feedback, like posting on Nextdoor and other resources. The chat is being recorded, so we're gonna note all of this, make sure we post in these places. And yeah, I think most importantly, we should be posting in the park because, you know, there's no place that's more important than in the park to share this. But Erin, I think it kind of falls on like maybe Kevin and people in the city to figure out like the right spot for where to post that and how to post that. But we should definitely do that.
Okay, all right. Susan.
Another thing that I would.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Erin.
So the way that we're letting people who, because not everybody wants to go to a night meeting or any meeting. And we would like to hear from those people too. So that's why, you know, a survey is a good preliminary indication of what people do and don't like. But when it comes to making decisions about the concepts and looking at those bullets that you were mentioning, you really want as many people to provide input as possible. So we have to figure out another way to make it so people don't have to come, you know, make it easy for people to do, which we will cogitate about.
Maybe we can talk about that, Erin, tomorrow or the beginning of next week. Okay. And I think if there's a way to post something on a sign next to the playground at some of the park entrances.
Well, there's that new kiosk, the new information kiosk too.
The kiosk.
I think posting it near the actual playground, since a lot of this relates to the playground, would also be helpful.
Okay.
And then everybody who's attended, which I think we topped out, and obviously it would include us as well. I think we topped out at 33, if I'm remembering correctly, which is good, but spread the word. And when we know next steps, like I said, probably in early January, we'll continue to spread the word, and the more people spread it themselves, that would be helpful. Susan, did you want to ask a question or say something?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to know, so for the next step, is there a way that you can email everybody who's here so that, like, I find my news through the Advocate, but not everybody has access to the contents of the Advocate if you don't have the digital subscription or if you don't have the hard copy. And then the hard copy also presents another problem because you couldn't click on the links to this meeting or to the survey if you have the hard copy of the paper. So those are a few of the barriers, along with, I think we've also forgotten that we have a lot of Spanish speaking families right in this Belltown neighborhood. And actually I went around, I canvassed the neighborhood last night, and I tried to say to people like, come on, there's this meeting, and look, your property is right across the street from the park, but all those people spoke Spanish. And so then I kind of felt like they were left out of having a voice because they don't have the language. And so that's something that we have to, you know, maybe.
Very good point.
Okay.
You know, as a teacher, I kind of felt embarrassed when I went there, and then the mom had to get her daughter, and then even the daughter didn't totally get the full gist of what I was trying to say. So maybe if we could email Erin our email addresses, and that way she could email us about when the next meeting is. So it's like a little bit more, I don't want to use the word transparent, but it's like just easier for us.
That's a good word.
Yeah, easier for us to have.
Just so everyone knows, Susan, to touch on your point, and Erin, when you fill out the survey and you put there's a question that says put your email in, Erin has access to this whole survey with the emails, and those will be the people who will immediately be contacted. So that's the best way to ensure that your name and your email are connected, and you will be the first person to find out about absolutely everything.
Yeah, so I have made an email list. I've of all the people that are on the Google survey who provided their emails, and anybody who's emailed me, anybody so Susan, you're on it, or anybody who I have heard from so far is on my email list. But yeah.
Okay. Sandy, did you have something?
No, I actually, that's perfect. I think if Erin has all the emails, then that'll be great. Great. And then if we post this in the park, even better. These are all great suggestions.
There's been a lot of people who have private messaged me and asked for the QR code. So I think that would be excellent if we could try and get that.
Exactly. Maybe we can put that in the kiosk in the park. That'd be great. So thank you guys.
Okay.
Just a lot of credit goes to Erin and Kevin. Really, they've been terrific.
They're pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think that would conclude for tonight. Thanks for everybody who's attended. If there's a snafu, meaning that we have an idea of putting a QR code, but it might take a few days to get that done, then instead of saying the end of next week, we might say the end of the following week for the survey. So we'll probably determine that between tomorrow and the beginning of next week. And for at least the folks that are here that we have email addresses for, we'll notify you if it's going to be the end of next week or the following week. So we'll try to keep everybody up to speed with that. So with that, everybody have a nice rest of your evening. Thank you for your comments and your input. And we look forward to the next one. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
So long.
Bye.
Thank you.